This week, John Hurd and Alex Valdivia from ThreatConnect join us for an update on some interesting threat intelligence topics. Our technical segment tonight will be with Jimmy Mesta on containerizing your security operations center. In the security news discussion for the week, a new Mirai worm takes out German ISP customers, Raspbian tries to lock down their platform, silent fixes from Microsoft, Muni eats it, Russians spread election-related propaganda, and we'll discuss Rule 41, not the one you're thinking of that has to do with sexual fetishes. Well, maybe. All that and more on this edition of Paul's Security Weekly. This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly.
Brought to you by the SANS Institute is the most trusted source for computer certification and research. Visit sans.org to explore their full curriculum and latest training offers. Onapsis, the leading provider of solutions to protect ERP systems from cyber attacks. Customers can secure their SAP and Oracle business critical platforms from espionage, sabotage, and financial fraud risks. Visit them on the web at onapsis.com. Pony Express. Check out their line of penetration testing devices, including the Pwn Pad, the Pwn Phone, and the Pwn Pro. For enterprises, there's Pwn Pulse, providing continuous visibility into wired, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth spectrums across all physical locations, including remote sites and branch offices. For all those hard-to-reach places, there's Pony Express. Visit them on the web at ponyexpress.com.
Hello and welcome to the show. Here's your host. He's a man in which Rule 41 does not yet apply. Paul Asadorian.
Welcome, everyone, to Paul's Security Weekly. I'm, of course, your host, Paul Asadorian, broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island. I've got the illustrious Paul's Security Weekly panel here with me this evening. Well, some of them anyway. Mr. Larry Pesce, who is the Director of Research. Is that your title? Director of Research
and Senior Managing Security Consultant.
For InGuardians.
Indeed.
Very nice.
Yeah,
very
nice. Lots of fun.
So you were saying earlier that there's some changes to Mike teaching at SANS.
Yes.
I'm assuming he'll still be consulting.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
oh, yeah. No.
good.
So Mike is retiring. Mike Poor, lead instructor for 503, is retiring from SANS in about a week and a half now. I think there's only 2 seats left in his class in CDI and DC.
It's so sad. I was actually sitting in a SANS class, and Mike was the TA, and they made an announcement like during the class that Mike was actually taking over from the trifecta of the folks that pretty much invented intrusion detection, or at least were pioneers in the field, Marty Resch, Judy Novak, and Stephen Northcutt, who were my instructors when I took the class. And I was in another class where Mike was waving in his wonderful beard and strutting around and helping students, and they announced he was taking over the class, and I was always thought wow, that dude must be really smart and really good if he's taking over that class. That's someone I ought to get to know.
Yes.
And he was, obviously Mike is such an awesome person. He's been on the show a lot of times.
And now he's my boss.
And now he's retiring from teaching the SANS class.
Right, yeah. He's retiring from teaching for SANS. However, he's, from my understanding, he's one of the founders of InGuardians. He's been there since the beginning. Then is going to be spending a lot more time with us, which we're very happy about.
Excellent.
Yep. He's not retiring from the industry by any stretch of the imagination, but he's retiring from teaching.
Good.
So,
well, not good that he's retiring from teaching, but good that obviously Mike's
right. He's not going away.
Good. We love Mike.
I'd miss him.
Absolutely. We all would.
Yes.
Mr. Jack Daniel is here in his wonderful red shirt.
Where?
His epic beard.
Yes.
You know, some people responded to the survey, Jack, and more than one person's feedback said, and this is very concerning to me, said that they wanted to make love to your beard. So I just wanted to warn you of that.
This is
in case you're at a conference or something.
This is not news
you
to
should
me.
be forewarned.
Those are the days when he doesn't need to use horse wash on
That's the
cream rinse.
my beard leads a very interesting life, a lot more interesting than mine.
This is true.
Some days
Does it
I
have
wish
its
I
own
were
Twitter
more-
account? Or did it at
does,
one time?
It does, and I don't control it. And its Twitter account is
Your beard controls its own
of its own.
Your beard controls its own Twitter account. That's
it
pretty
does.
amazing.
Either that or Steve McGrath. But
Oh,
yeah, exactly. Yes.
Crypto analyst, InfoSec analyst, pioneering ex-NSA pen tester, and PCI specialist, and most importantly, certified security curmudgeon, Jeff Mann is here with us on the lines via Skype. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Paul. How's everybody doing?
We're doing fantastic. Now, Jeff, were you just speaking at you're like on a worldwide tour in 2017 of security conferences?
I just finished up my last con for the year, which was B-Sides Charleston.
Excellent. Excellent. Hopefully we'll see Jeff on the conference circuit, as it were, next year.
I've already gotten my first confirmation for a conference in March called CypherCon, which is up in Wisconsin.
Awesome. Awesome. Yep. A couple of quick announcements.
March in Wisconsin?
Yeah, March 31st.
It'll be a little cold.
Hey, global warming, it'll be fine.
I just want to quickly remind everyone to visit securityweekly.com/subscribe. Subscribe to all of our shows. In addition to Paul's Security Weekly, we have Hack Naked News, which recently I've been hosting, which has been a lot of fun. It's kind of like your security morning paper coupled with the Daily Show is my approach.
Oh,
we all
all
approach
right.
the show a little differently. So I try and inject some humor. So if you want to see me fail miserably at humor, tune into that show. Enterprise Security Weekly with myself and John Strand, and Startup, Security Weekly with myself and Michael Santarcangelo. SecurityWeekly.com/survey. Go take our listener survey. We're almost at the 500 mark, which I'm told is like the magical number that it can be a representation of something if we reach 500. We were like 488 before, so please go fill out our survey so we can make podcasting a better place or something like that. Stronger together, something like that. Alrighty, on the lines via Skype are our special guests from ThreatConnect, John Hurd and Alex Valdivia. Hopefully I said that right, Alex. They are threat intel researchers. Together they are part of the ThreatConnect team. They know what it takes to work on the front lines of cyber defense. They know they're stronger together than they are apart. They're strategic business thinkers. Since 2011, ThreatConnect, of course, has led the threat intelligence revolution, building the industry's most comprehensive threat intelligence platform. Welcome, John and Alex, to the show.
Thanks, Paul. Glad to be on.
It's nice having you guys here. This works better free form, trust me. So I'm just going to ask you guys questions, knowing what you do, knowing what ThreatConnect does. Recently, there's been this huge surgence and uptick in both the media and actual attacks against IoT devices. You both are kind of on the front lines of threat research. What have you been seeing in terms of IoT malware and IoT attacks that you would like to share with our listeners?
Well, definitely just what you said has certainly been echoed among our users. So we just explained a little bit where we're coming from. Our research team uses ThreatConnect, the platform, day in and day out to do our own research. But we also have some visibility into what other people are sharing and collaborating on in the platform. And like you said, yeah, that's definitely the uptick is there. I don't know if you have anything to add, John.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting situation. I think it's one of those things that it's one of those unsolved problems, just with the internet in general, with security, making things insecure by default, that just kind of comes back to bite us. It's certainly difficult to from an indicator standpoint, it's difficult to collect things because this is coming from all over. This is coming from routers, printers, cameras, whatever it is. So it's kind of a tricky problem to solve, one that we certainly should have seen coming. We could do more to stop it, but unfortunately, it's here. Hopefully, it forces the issue to rethink how the security process fits into things, and hopefully, it takes a greater role in design.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, I think recent events will certainly help push it in the right direction. As customers were actually impacted this week, we were going to talk about in our stories of the week. So, anytime customers are impacted, that helps push things along. Certainly, not necessarily going to solve the problem, but will push things hopefully in the right direction. Now, it sounds like you both look at trends as you're able to collect a vast amount of data. What other trends have you been noticing recently?
Sure. One of the trends I've been noticing, I've done a little bit of research on, is it's kind of hard to pin down. It takes various forms, but is a lot of e-commerce platforms recently I've noticed have been hacked or compromised in some way. And so that's leading to a lot of JavaScript skimmers or PHP skimmers that are being put on these stores, these online stores. So there was recently a blog released about I believe it was a National Republican Senatorial Committee or something along those lines. They had a JavaScript skimmer on their website. So if you've ordered anything from their website recently, chances are your credit card information was skimmed and sent to this other domain as well. But kind of an interesting thing where, again, I think some security issues that a lot of people that we know we should take care of are kind of coming back to bite us, in that there's platforms, these e-commerce platforms that are known to be vulnerable, and people just won't patch them in a timely manner, and so that leads to these issues where there's a lot of these skimmers I'm finding out there. So that's kind of one of the interesting things I've been working on.
Well, and that is interesting because typically when we think of a skimmer, it requires someone to have physical access. This is like a virtual skimmer, which is really neat. And I think in history, we've seen people make a big deal about e-commerce vulnerabilities in both open source and commercial e-commerce solutions. And I think we've seen a lot of website defacing. But as other holes are patched, attackers are going to move to the low-hanging fruit, and now they're like, oh, well, I can just put a JavaScript skimmer, and nobody is the wiser that's running the site. Their site's still running, but meanwhile, all their credit cards are being, all their customers' credit cards are being harvested. So that's interesting.
So I'm curious, since I'm the PCI guy on the show, a lot of e-commerce companies try to get beyond their PCI compliance issues by trying to redirect their e-commerce, their payment page, the checkout function to a third party. Are these skimmers at the, without going way into the weeds, are you finding these skimmers more on the payment sites themselves or on the main e-commerce pages before the redirect?
They're primarily on the main e-commerce pages on a website. There's some pretty prominent websites that have had them. It's before the redirect. So it's a pretty interesting, very clever way to to steal some credit card numbers.
Very interesting. I would love to pick your brain later on that, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So there are other trends that you've noticed recently?
I'd say, interestingly, when you say trends, you might tend to think of like an uptick or like a change. But I think it's really interesting that the level of reliance on like typo squat domains by threat actors remains so high, especially when they're using whois data that can be just kind of pivoted off. And like we find a lot of stuff just based off of this very simple analytical technique, right? Just bad guy register, bad domain using whois information. Whois information leads to a bunch of other bad domains.
Yeah, and I saw some interesting. I actually saw a product demo, and the product is actually able to very easily give you a lot of information about that. And it seems like they're not being very smart about registering the typo squatting domains, that they'll use the same registration information to register a whole bunch of types. So like you find one, and I believe it was, correct me if I'm wrong, right in the ThreatConnect product, you can be like, well, what other domains does that person own? Which is not an easy thing to accomplish with open source tools. I don't know if you ever had to do that, Larry. Like,
I've tried.
Yeah, there's no
And
straightforward.
failed.
Yeah.
But ThreatConnect like lets you do that. They're just like, yeah, click. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Is that how it works?
Yeah. And on top of that, you can also kind of set these tracks to give you an alert when somebody, that same threat actor using those same whatever email address or physical address, any string that they use in the registering information. If they register a new domain, a week later, 2 months later, 6 months later, you get an alert on that. So you know it's a bad guy, it's a bad domain. So you can kind of get ahead of the game that way.
So now when you say alert, can you automatically generate a DNS blacklist and integrate that into your environment? Is that like how would you do that?
You can do that. ThreatConnect. ThreatConnect has a pretty extensive API, I think pretty robust API. So however you want to collect your indicators within ThreatConnect, if you want to operationalize them out to a device like a SIM or a firewall, you can do that in an automated way.
That's really cool. I have been seeing research this year that points to an attacker's reliance on typo squatting domains.
Yeah, I think another interesting one that I've noticed kind of in that same vein is I've seen some interesting internationalized domains recently as well that have basically it's puny code. So it's a domain that starts with XN -- and then whatever they want. So these are ways to have characters with accents, for example, in them. So you could register google.com, but I could have one of the O's that is really a Cyrillic O rather than a Latin character O, or I could have an accent over it. So I can do those little things where I can put that link in an email, I can put that link on a website. No one knows any different. They click on it, but they're not really going to Google. They're going to Google with accent. Yeah.
Google. It's the French Google. Google.
Yep. Yeah. Google. So that's kind of been interesting. The capability's been there for a while.
Register domains now.
Yeah.
And now you got Larry registering like 8,000 domains.
Yeah.
We're
I'm
gonna
not
set
gonna
a new
lie.
record.
A couple weeks ago, I spent some time registering some domains. So once I figured that one out.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. So based on your the research that you both do, are there product features that have been implemented or ones that are coming down the pike that like are based on some of the research and things that you've been finding?
Definitely. Part of our job, it kind of happens naturally, right? Because we're using the platform so much. We are kind of the ideal users to say, this process right here should just be a feature in the platform. Like this, few steps that I took should be a button. And so then that happens. I can think of, you could probably, stuff that you've actually written as probably like that's right there.
Yeah, one of the cool things about having an API and SDK, is I love writing code as well as doing research. So it's fun to run into a problem or like some really complicated thing that normally takes you a long time to figure out, and just to write a snippet that integrates with ThreatConnect where you can do whatever you need to do. You can walk through a directory of malicious files. You can pull all the hashes, create them in ThreatConnect, do basically whatever you want. So I've created quite a few apps that do everything from like graphing trends of indicators over time to we actually created one recently that creates a snort signature based on basically like there's a bucket of indicators and you can create a snort signature on the network indicators. So there's quite a few things we have planned to do that. We'll see. There's kind of a selection process, so it's kind of like a draft. So we'll see which ones get drafted. But
so
there's
now,
some pretty cool.
Is the modules that you're writing, are those available in like an open source repository where customers can go get those, or a forum, or how do you distribute those different code snippets, and can customers contribute, and is that captured somewhere?
Yeah, so at the moment, most of the apps we've created that they're running and available in the ThreatConnect platform, So we have various places where you can install what's called a Spaces app, and so anywhere you see a tab, for example, like on an indicators page, it will have a Spaces tab that you can click on. You can add apps there. So we already have them running in ThreatConnect. We hope to get some of our kind of background scripts that I use in day-to-day work out on GitHub. Mm-hmm. So we're hoping to get those open source a little bit more. But currently they live in the platform primarily.
Okay. So you have like your own like little app store within the platform?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now what language are you writing both the API integration and some of these apps? Is it two different?
Cyrillic, duh.
Cyrillic.
Yeah, Cyrillic, obviously. I like, Cyrillic characters. I primarily use Python. That's kind of my go-to if it's just is quick and easy. I know it pretty well. But I also use the JavaScript SDK. I'm not wild about JavaScript, but I'm learning it. So primarily Python and JavaScript. We have a Java SDK as well. I've kind of dabbled in that a little bit, but primarily Python and JavaScript.
JavaScript, I make a mess really easily with JavaScript.
It's easy to do that.
It gets messy really fast. Python, I can keep the reins in on it. Whether it works or not is a different story, but
there's always that, right?
There's always that. Or if it's functional, it's really ugly and insecure. So it's a balancing act. No, that's really cool. Anything else that you guys wanted to add or talk about? I know you have a 6:30 stop, so we have about 2 minutes. Was there anything else you wanted to tell the listeners about?
Or do you really need to stop at 6:30?
Yeah. We don't really. It's not exactly a hard cutoff.
It's a soft
it's a soft stop. Okay.
Yeah, they're guidelines.
So have customers contributed some code that you folks have seen, and what's some of the coolest like customer contributions or customer like experiences or success stories that you've seen?
So I can talk about one real quick. We've actually had a couple of partnerships with higher learning institutions, so a couple of universities where we had grad students working on in a threat intel class, and one of them happened to be a computer science class. So the professor said, "Hey, like these guys can build apps if you want." So we kind of brainstormed, came up with some ideas for the students. Say like, this is a pretty good project. Like this is a real world problem that we're trying to solve every day. And so they came back and like we had a hackathon with them. We like showed them how to work on these Spaces apps, and they came up with some pretty good stuff. So that was a really really cool kind of interaction between enterprise and academia.
I think that's great. I mean, anytime you can enable academic students, grad students, whatever, to solve some real world problems in security, that's a huge win. And we don't often hear about that here on the show. No. Situations like that happening. So yeah, we jumped at that opportunity. It was really really cool. So we're going to continue to do that with our educational partners. Awesome. So what are some of the trends or cool things that you guys, so I guess my question is, what are some cool things you can do with ThreatConnect that you're like, and I know because I've worked for a product company, right? And Jack still works for Tenable Network Security. And Jack and I would go through this all the time. We're like, wow, I can do this like really cool thing. Like I wish more people would know about it. Like here's your chance to tell the world. Yeah. Or at least the small percentage of the security community that listens to the show.
all of the intelligent members of the security community.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You could phrase it that way too, I guess.
Yeah. I'd say one of the things we talked about earlier with who is tracks is just amazingly powerful. I have hundreds of things that I'm tracking right now, and so it's wonderful to be able to investigate a domain or a couple domains, and then just to notice, hey, they always use this phone number, they always use this address, they have this string in their WHOIS record, to be able to create an alert on it and just kind of forget about it. Just create it, let it go, and it'll let me know when there's something else. I think that's really cool to me. Again, like you said, it's really hard to do that otherwise. And then I love the idea that sometimes I know about this domain just as the adversaries registered it. So, it's pretty cool to be able to like shut it down if I want to. I can monitor it. I can set up some monitors on it. So there's a lot you can do with that. So I would say that's one of the features that I find amazing about ThreatConnect.
Hey,
I would-
are you concerned that you're tipping off the adversaries to their poor habits, and perhaps they might
question.
change their ways?
So, yeah, that's an interesting discussion that we on occasion get into about how much do we reveal. With this one, I'm not tremendously worried about it because I think there certainly are low-level adversaries who may not know about this, but I think most of the high-level adversaries that keep using the same email address, for example, to register a domain, they're probably doing it because they're going for a kind of a high-volume approach. It's easier to do it that way. So I don't think in this instance, we're giving away some magical secret recipe. Is that, your Whois records, depending on, who you register with, but Whois records can be searched. I think that's public knowledge. So I'm not tremendously worried about it in this instance, but that the question in general is very interesting because sometimes we'll track certain infrastructure or malware back to an individual, and then the question becomes, okay, do we write a blog on this individual? Do we call them out, or does that only make them a smarter bad guy?
Yeah, that's my concern. Like, what if they're listening now and going, I need to do Whois guard when I register all these domains, and then this technique is kind of...
Paul, you need to add that to the survey. Are you a bad guy?
Are you a bad guy?
Yeah.
If so, do not listen to the show and change your habits and techniques based on what we say here. That would be bad.
Well, I've got a couple of thoughts on that point. Number one, I think basically, whether or not they know, I think it comes down to cost for the threat actor and ROI. So they might be like, excuse me, I know that I'm still going to do it because people are still falling for it. I'm still making money. Like, it's still cheaper for me to keep doing it this way.
Right. If it's $1 for a domain for Whois guard and they're registering 5,000 domains.
Right. Exactly. So the other thing is more, I guess, on the philosophical side, is if it comes down to the choice between forcing a threat actor, an opponent, an adversary to change their method and to be smarter about what they do versus sitting on information that could help others defend themselves, I would always go with sharing the information. I guess that's the same thing, sharing the information and forcing the threat actor to defend it, to step up their game, so to speak.
No, I completely agree. When I worked for university, we had that conversation a lot, as oftentimes we would see some attack techniques first, and I don't know if this is still the case, and I don't think I had any hard evidence to support this, but it was kind of generally accepted theory, and Larry, I know you worked at university too, that attackers would kind of test out techniques in the university environment, kind of see how they worked before they started propagating them out towards the internet. Did you guys see that as well? Do you guys think that's true?
Yes.
I would agree with that, even though I also don't have any hard evidence, but it certainly makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Do you guys have questions on threat intelligence?
No.
I know Larry is a pen tester. You're probably not thinking about threat intelligence.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we do some of that type of stuff too. We do some incident response.
You do some incident response, so yeah.
Absolutely. But no, I can't think of anything.
Go ahead, Jeff.
And this is not meant to be a trick question. And it sounds like a stupid question, but it's not. How does ThreatConnect define threat? What is a threat?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think in one sense, I'm pulling definitions a little bit from the broader security community as well. But I think there's...
I'm sorry.
What's that?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Jeff is our resident security curmudgeon, just remember.
Yeah. Yep. So I think there's really two ways you can look at threat as it's defined. So in one sense, people would say someone might view a malicious indicator as a threat, or a piece of malware as a threat, as in, hey, that's threatening to me. I wouldn't want that on my network. It's threatening. But then the more technical definition, and the one that, as someone who uses the platform every day, I would espouse, is that the idea of threat in ThreatConnect is rooted in the diamond model. So it's I don't want to get too sidetracked into the diamond model. That's a whole nother discussion. But really, it's a way of thinking about a threat in a way that breaks down an adversary, the infrastructure he's using, the capabilities he's using, and who and why he's targeting someone. So that person. And so the threat is the big picture of, okay, we have an adversary leveraging a capability across this infrastructure, attacking this victim. So that whole thing, or as much as you can get of that thing, is considered a threat. And you can start to get diamonds over time, if you will. So you might see the same adversary use the same capability and similar infrastructure to attack different victims. So that larger scale thing, if you will, that larger scale connection there is a threat.
Yeah, I was looking at your blog site earlier today, and I saw mention of the diamond model, with reference to 160. I think it was 160 characteristics or types of threats. Is there a way to summarize the diamond model in 25 words or less? Just conceptually? No. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah. I'll give it a try. 25 words is a little bit difficult, but basically, that doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
Sorry, I'm behind already. If you think about a diamond, obviously the shape, at the top point of a diamond, I wish I had a whiteboard in here. At the top of the diamond, you'd have an adversary, and on the other point of the diamond, you'd have a victim. And so the adversary is attacking the victim. And on the other 2 points of the diamond, really on what would be the horizontal axis, so those 2 points that are connected by, that are connected by a horizontal axis, that is considered infrastructure and capabilities. So again, it's a way of capturing an adversary, leveraging a capability across an infrastructure toward a victim.
Gotcha. So it's an attempt to paint a picture where diamonds are multifaceted. There's multiple methods to get essentially from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We describe that as almost like a prism too. It's a similar kind of model when we look at network traffic for the software that we do in our startup, right? As you turn the prism, it changes the way the light is interpreted, and allowing people to look at data in that way, think of it as a prism of light. I think you're doing similar things with looking at threat data, right? When a lot of other vendors are doing it, looking at different kinds of data, network traffic, endpoint collection data, logs, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Jack? How you doing over there? You got questions? Does this tie into your world at all? I know that there were some integrations with various threat sources for vulnerability data.
Yeah, no, I think they've covered it pretty well. Let's not beat it. I think that they've, threat, like you said, the threat is simple. It's just getting in the conversation of what's a threat versus what's a risk. That's
it's a rat hole.
It is a rat hole. I mean, it's fun at conferences when you sit at the bar on somebody's got a company credit card. That's a great conversation. But,
and there are more fun topics to talk about than that too when you're at the bar with the company credit card.
That's true.
So are you guys? So hold on. Which one is John? Raise your hand. Okay, so John's on the left. Okay, so John, you're going to go first in playing 5 questions with Security Weekly.
Here we go.
Our listeners love this. One thing from the survey, they're like, you should ask 5 questions of everyone in every show. So John, 3 words to describe yourself.
I would say creative, innovative, and persistent.
Alex, 3 words to describe yourself.
All right, inquisitive, observant, and it took me a long time to think about a third one, so I think indecisive is probably appropriate.
So brilliant. Alex, are you saying you prepared yourself for the 5 questions?
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with the 5 questions.
All right. So, John, in your preparations, what was your answer to, if you were a serial killer, what would be your weapon of choice?
All right. My answer to this is other serial killers. So, through social engineering, getting other people to do the dirty work.
Very nice. John?
I've always wanted to use a lightsaber, so I would have
good.
to say
I like
lightsaber.
that. John, if you wrote a book about yourself, what would the title be?
Stop reading and get on with your life.
Alex?
This one was, I don't know. All I could come up with was the jungle. I grew up in Bolivia a little bit, and I lived in the jungle down there for a couple of years, though.
Nice.
That's all I got.
Alex, in the popular game of Ask Grabby Grabby, do you prefer to go first or second?
All right, I'm going to try to continue being clever with these. I would go third because that would mean that I survived the first round.
Very nice. Very nice. That's a unique answer. I like
Wow.
it. John, how about yourself? In Ask Grabby Grabby, do you like to go first or second?
So, if I may, I was just, this is one I actually had a chance to think about a little bit. And I was wondering, if I go first, does that mean I'm on offense or defense first? Like,
It depends
Which
if you're
side
playing,
am I choosing?
It depends if you're playing the American rules or European rules. So
Okay. Let's assume we're playing American rules. I'm going to go with first.
all righty. So, John, choose two celebrities to be your parents.
Yeah. I'd say Gandalf and Theodore Roosevelt.
Alex?
I went a totally different direction. I said Charlie Sheen and Lindsay Lohan.
I like,
Damn.
I find merit when you just like go all out crazy with the answer to that question.
Might not make it to my 18th birthday, but
It's going to be a fun 18 years. Yeah, it's going to be a wild ride. Absolutely.
It's either that or you're going to be in Child Protective Services, one of the two.
That's it. John and Alex, thank you very much for appearing on Security Weekly. It's wonderful having you. Keep up the great work at ThreatConnect. With that, we're going to take a short break and come back with our technical segment from Jimmy Mesta on containerizing your security operations center.